She never let us believe that anything could get in the way of our dreams or pursuits. My sister Maya is 2.5 years younger than me. So at the age of 2.5, I was told, look after your sister. And it is something that is very much a part of just who I am, which is that look after those who need your support or need your help.
Welcome back. The left loves to focus on the fact that President Trump made his money in real estate, came from money, that he's a billionaire. They try to play him off as some out-of-touch rich guy while they claim to fight for the little guy. They hold him up under a microscope, scrutinizing every little thing he has done as a businessman. Now that the Democrats have a new standard bearer, as you've seen, Madam Kamala, how come no one is looking into her finances? Vice President Harris has been in public service for nearly 20 years. First as a San Francisco DA, then Attorney General of California to the Senate, and straight from there to the vice presidency. These jobs pay well. California Attorney General made about $143,000 when Harris held the office, which by California standards today does not sound like all that much, but U.S. senators make about $174,000 a year. The vice president of the United States makes about $284,000. Not too shabby, but in today's economy, these are upper middle class salaries. So that raises the question, how is Kamala Harris's net worth today allegedly worth $8 million? Her sister, Maya Harris, also works in government and is well connected, even serving as a policy advisor to Hillary Clinton. Is there a family scheme here going on? Are they taking any tips and tricks from some of these big political families? Joining us now is Peter Schweizer of the Government Accountability Institute, New York Times bestselling author, just out with a fabulous new book, BloodMoney. Welcome back.
Great to be with you, Chanel. Thanks for having me.
What's your take on Kamala's finances? Is there anything to see there, or is there some questions in your mind based on how she has risen through the ranks?
No, it's a great question. There are some very interesting and curious things to be found here. I mean, we have to remember that her political career really began because of her alliance and association with Willie Brown, the mayor of San Francisco. They had been romantically involved earlier, and in 2003, the San Francisco district attorney at the time, a guy named Terrence Hallinan, was investigating Willie Brown. Now, Willie Brown had set up Kamala Harris with a couple of very high-paying appointments in state government that she had no background or qualifications in. These were state boards. Each one paid about $100,000 a year. Each one required that she show up basically once a month. But she got that San Francisco DA's job because Willie Brown wanted investigations ended by Terrence Hallinan. So he ran Kamala Harris against Terrence Hallinan. She won, and she stopped those investigations. So that's what launched her political career. She then, of course, became involved with and married Doug Emhoff, a Los Angeles attorney, and then she became the Attorney General of the state of California. And this is where these conflicts of interests begin to arise that are, I think, very concerning. Doug Emhoff's firm, Venable, represented a lot of corporate clients. When she was Attorney General, there were 6 nutrition supplement companies that were under investigation by the Department of Justice, by the Federal Trade Commission. There was also in her San Diego office as Attorney General, people that wanted these 6 supplement companies investigated as well. She squelched that investigation. And the problem is that her husband's law firm represented those 6 companies. She did not recuse herself. It was a massive conflict of interest. So part of understanding Kamala Harris's rise and her financial wealth is understanding how her rise in political office dovetails with the commercial interests and the legal practice of her husband, who represented a lot of corporate clients at the same time she was supposed to be exercising authority as Attorney General of California.
Oh, there's so much to unpack with what you just laid out. First of all, We've seen other high-level Democrats install their choice in a prosecutor general or attorney general in order to have investigations shut down. And when I say prosecutor general, I'm referring to Ukraine, where we remember that story of Viktor Shokin. We've interviewed him, where his allegation is that the Biden administration or the Biden vice presidency really tried to shut down investigations in Ukraine, and the only way to do that was to get rid of these pesky prosecutors or attorneys generals or prosecutor generals in order to clear the way to make money. Now, the other thing I wanted to raise that you just mentioned, spouses. Spouses are a famous and very frequent, let's say, money laundering route. And I think that you're raising other points as well, but how blatant are they at using spouses these days?
Yeah, I mean, the spouse is a great way to essentially steer money to help a politician and their family. And you can do it in ways that seem less obvious. I mean, the stupid way to do it is to just give money to the spouse of an elected official. Better way to do it is to hire them for a job or give them speaking fees. We saw that, of course, with Bill Clinton. Or to hire them as a consultant, or if they are a lawyer, hire their law firm to represent them. That is a pattern that exists. And I think if you look at the situation with Kamala Harris, it's not just these domestic clients. Let's remember that Doug Emhoff, he worked at Venable, and then he later went to DLA Piper. These are law firms that have lots of international clients. So when she was in the United States Senate, her husband's at DLA Piper. This is a law firm that, among other entities, represents the Palestinian Authority, governments in the Middle East, and she is supposed to be making Middle Eastern policy, voting in the Senate on those issues. So it's a very, very slippery slope, and there's no transparency in the sense that we don't know fully what Emhoff was working on at the law firm. We don't know how much these entities were paying the law firm. And Kamala Harris and her husband don't seem particularly interested in answering any of those questions.
Well, I guess the next question is, how do you remedy these kinds of situations? Is it just transparency and relying on the media to expose these things and relying on a kind of self-policing amongst our political class? Or is this just a situation where we're never going to get around it? People are always going to find a way to make money off of powerful positions.
Yeah, no, it's a great question, and I wish I had an easy answer for you. I don't. I mean, you nailed it when you said they're writing the rules, self-policing, and this is the problem. So any reform, any legislation that needs to get passed that will require greater transparency, has to be passed by these elected officials, and they don't want that that kind of scrutiny, and they don't want that kind of reporting. The bigger problem, though, Chanel, is I think the media. The media doesn't cover these things. They investigate Trump, and my view is a lot of the reporting there has just been horrible. But okay, that's your job. Yeah. Your job is to report on politicians. The problem is they only do one side. So you're not going to see any stories out of the New York Times or the Washington Post or any of the legacy television networks where they're actually reporting on the law firm, what he was doing, the history of Kamala Harris, of her rise to political power, how Willie Brown, made her hundreds of thousands of dollars when she was a 29-year-old unknown lawyer in the Bay Area.
Do you see any patterns that may link Kamala to foreign money at this point? I know that you've done a lot of work with the Clinton, like studying the Clintons, uncovering the Bidens, and those were political dynasties whose money trails went overseas. I don't know if there's any money trails that are obvious between Kamala Harris and Doug Emhoff and foreign sourcing.
Yeah, we're looking into that right now. So I'd love to come back when I have more of an opportunity to investigate, to report on that. But certainly one of the things we're looking at, in particular, when you look at Kamala Harris's role as the border czar, a title now that she is running away from. but is in fact there. I mean, let's remember that part of that job involved going and dealing with Central American governments in Guatemala and elsewhere.
Right.
And as vice president, she had a very heavy hand in effectively selecting or putting her thumb on the scale to help certain political leaders win in Guatemala and some of these other countries. And certainly there was a lot of money at stake. So we're investigating that right now. But I think we need more investigation in this area, more scrutiny. And certainly when it comes to Kamala Harris's wealth accumulation, you cannot separate her public career in politics from the wealth that she's been able to accumulate. The two dovetail together quite nicely, and that's part of the problem with American politics today.
Well, if there's anyone who can get to the bottom of where their money comes from, it's you, Peter. So we will be tracking you. We look forward to having you back on with any updates you may have.
Thanks so much, Chanel. Always great to be with you.